Good afternoon and thank you for being with us. For years, Elizabeth Edwards prepared her family for the days she would be gone. Now her family is preparing to say its final goodbye.
We have learned that Edwards will be buried next to her oldest son in a private service in Raleigh on Saturday. Her funeral will be held at the Edenton Street United Methodist Church. That's in Raleigh, and it'll happen at 1 o'clock, and it'll be followed by a graveside service. There will not be a public visitation. Even in her final days, family friends say that Elizabeth Edwards was resilient, even making sure that Christmas decorations were up in their Chapel Hill home.
Tamara Gibbs is in Chapel Hill with more on the life of Elizabeth Edwards.
As her family quietly goes about planning a memorial service in her honor, friends of the late Elizabeth Edwards are reflecting on her life and legacy.
She's the most remarkable woman I ever met in my life. Her work ethic, everything about her will, serve as an inspiration to me forever.
For Dave Mudcat Saunders, Elizabeth Edwards wasn't just a friend. She was a champion for the poor and an advocate for health care and other public policy issues. But as a public figure, her personal life was often the target of tabloids. Close friends recall her ability to press forward in spite of it, writing 2 best-selling books discussing her life's trials and triumphs, even her most deepest pain, the loss of her teenage son, Wade. Her resilient spirit, friends say, is a lesson for all.
And the thing about Elizabeth is that she was a mother to everyone she met. Any room that she walked into, she immediately made it a home, because she would, whether you actually were a member of her family or someone she just met, she made you feel like you were a member of her family. And there's just the most incredibly nurturing woman that I think probably each of us have ever known.
Elizabeth Edwards died after a 6-year battle with breast cancer.
She touched so many lives, including several people here in the Piedmont Triad, those especially inspired by her story, cancer patients and survivors. Fox 8's Sheikah Strickland talked to some of those women this afternoon. Sheikah.
Yeah, these women are women that never met Elizabeth Edwards but still feel a personal connection to her. They're discussing the legacy Edwards leaves behind.
Laura, I want to show you something.
These women are cancer patients, survivors, and supporters. They meet weekly to knit prayer shawls for cancer patients going through chemotherapy at High Point Regional Hospital.
And every bed that's made up there will have one of these on them.
Usually they don't talk about cancer unless someone brings up their own battle. But today, Laura McFall says everyone's discussing Elizabeth Edwards.
We talked about that a lot this morning, about Ms. Edwards, about what her children, what she's contributed to the public life.
She's done so much for breast cancer, and with her books and with all the talk that she's done.
Patty Townsend feels a personal connection to Edwards. Doctors diagnosed both of them with breast cancer in 2004.
That's the year that I got my news, and that's the year I had my chemotherapy. I had 6 rounds of chemo.
Dr. Susan Williford sees many of High Point Regional's breast cancer patients. She says news of a public figure's passing brings more people to her office.
And makes breast cancer awareness a lot higher. So I think in the people that don't have breast cancer, it makes you want to go get your mammogram or check your breasts and things like that.
It oftentimes scares her current patients because they relate to people like Elizabeth Edwards. But Dr. Williford says there's a lot to be hopeful about.
That it is curable, that treatment works, and that we'll be there with you.
Patty Townsend is living proof. After a brief scare, she got test results back last week that prove she's cancer-free 6 years later. She believes Edwards' life brings meaning to survivors.
A wonderful legacy that we too can make it, whatever we're going through. We can survive. We can let others know that there is still life, even though you're going through a lot of turmoil. There is still life, and we can make it.
Dr. Williford says there are new drugs coming out to fight cancer, including one that came out just a few weeks ago. She says cancer treatment is also becoming more specific for patients, and that makes it better.
Thank you, Sheikah. We have complete coverage at myfox8.com now on the life and legacy of Elizabeth Edwards. You can see her in pictures through the years and watch the stories we've done with local people whose lives